Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. My name is Dawn, and today I am very excited to talk to an old hometown dude from my neck of the woods. And it's your neck of the woods too, but I'm just going to say, yeah, we're from the Stryker, Ohio. How crazy is that? Who is from Stryker, Ohio? Very few people, right?
A small number. We're in
Right.
a sacred club.
Oh my gosh. We're in a sacred club, the Stryker, Ohio Sacred Club. We are. Yes. Elliott Mueller is joining me today, but he's not living in Stryker, Ohio anymore. He went to the University of Michigan and played football for, oh, this is so hard for me to say, for the Michigan Wolverines. And the reason it's hard for me to say, I know, I'm Ohio State, die-hard Ohio State fan. And as we talk, you'll figure out. Interestingly enough, Elliott and his family, you were raised in a diehard Ohio State household, correct?
Yes, that's probably putting it mildly.
Oh God. Well, you
Yes.
and your other brothers, the three of you, I think it was really funny because um, there is there's a really great episode, not an episode, it's not an episode. It was on ESPN. It's called Miracle. And I
Yeah.
watched that originally earlier when it had come out, and I rewatched it the other day. And gosh, when I watch it, like I tear up because it's just so authentic, so genuine. But something that I caught this time around was that your dad would spray paint a football field on the ground outside on Saturdays for you and your brothers and him to play football.
Yes. Yeah, that is correct. He used to do, I mean, all kinds of things like that, but that was always my favorite when, he worked for the state, and so he had one of those roller kind of sticks where you just put a thing of spray paint in it and you could just walk and spray at the same time. And so and you saw him with that out and he starts making laps and you kind of peek out the window and it's a beautiful sunny Saturday, probably even before an Ohio State game was about to kick off. You
Oh
knew,
God.
all right, we got to get our game in first. And yeah, you knew it was going to be a fun day, but that was
Oh,
one of the fun things about him. He'd be setting up bases to play baseball, and we'd have a lot of our friends over, and obviously our parents were friends with other parents that had kids around the same age. So a lot of times it would be a bunch of kids over, and he'd be all-time quarterback, or he'd be pitching to us. We'd be playing baseball and all kinds of
oh.
whatever other games you could think of in a yard.
Well,
We
man, I
were we
love
were doing
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he started you at a very young age. Like you were little when all that was happening, right?
Yeah, yeah, very little, and a lot of times it would be my dad and I versus, because I was the youngest, versus my two older brothers, and it'd be like 2-on-2 football,
Okay.
and he'd be drawing plays up on his hand. We'd break the huddle. He'd say, "You're going to run here, do this, do that, and come this way, and I'll throw you right here." But I
Oh,
mean, it was serious. It was serious business. You learned that you know this was serious, and
yeah.
we're trying to win.
Yeah,
So it
well,
was.
so that competitiveness was built into you early, that fire was built into you early because as you progressed in your game, you ended up moving away from our hometown. You ended up moving to a neighboring town called Wasion, Ohio, and that's where you got involved in football, more organized football outside of the stuff that your dad would introduce you to in the backyard, which then progressed you on to this amazing high school athlete that was recruited by numerous Division I schools, and then it went on to Michigan. I'm going to say it again: Michigan Wolverines, Michigan Wolverines. Yes, okay, I'm saying it. And then after that, you played for the New Orleans Saints for a bit, and then you also participated in the Arena Football League too. So you've had a really pretty cool career. But now living in LA, we were just talking before I hit the record. You are pursuing acting, and the latest is stand up comedy that you're doing, which I think is brilliant. That's got to be hard though.
Yes, yeah, it's extremely hard. I'd rather play football in front of 110,000 people than do stand up for 20 people sometimes. It's
Oh,
very nerve-wracking, but I can say when you get up and you get a few people to laugh, even if you can just get a few people to laugh, it's like a drug or something. It's like I can't sleep at night. I'm like, what an adrenaline rush that was, and
yeah,
that's probably the reason. Acting's very similar.
yeah.
I always describe it or relate it to football. and the idea that in some weird way I enjoy the nervousness, the stress, and the adrenaline rush that you get from football. I still, it's hard to recreate that, obviously, but the
Right.
closest thing is, somebody says hike and you hike a football. Well, somebody says action and you do the scene, as an actor. And there's
Yeah.
that, you don't know what you have plans, you have your playbook or you have your script. You kind of have a plan, but how is it going to go? Is it going to go exactly how you drew it up? Probably not. And that's where the magic's at. And it's fun to have that interaction with, other actors. And obviously when you're playing football, to be playing with people and that, that special moment that you can all get on the same page and create something, and it's fun. So that's one of the reasons I love acting, and now with
Yes.
stand up, it's very similar. And
Yes. I
there's
imagine
kind of
so.
there's kind of no there's kind of no with acting you can maybe do a redo cut and say let's try it this way, but with stand up you're writing your own stuff, you're
Yeah.
preparing, and you go up on the mic, up on the stage, and you're like, I hope other people laugh at what I think is funny.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
yeah,
I think
so
that's
it's been a fun experiment.
for sure, for sure. And I love what you just related the football to the acting in terms of you have your plan, but you don't know how it's going to go. You just kind of have to roll with it. And you are as prepared as you can possibly be as an athlete for your game and how you train and all the levels and all the things that you do. And in acting, you are prepared by knowing the script and knowing what the direction and everything's happening. But then, when that happens, there's lots of different things that can happen. Wow.
Yes.
I would
I
have
mean,
never thought about it like that, but that's awesome. So, Elliott Mueller, welcome to the show. That was like the longest introduction I'm sorry I've ever done,
oh, it's great. It's great.
but
It's
I
good
am
to just
so
dive in.
we just you'll find that I tend to do that. Yeah, I tend to just let's just dive in and talk.
Why
I'm
not?
yeah, I'm so 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 glad that you agreed to have a conversation with me today because all the great accolades that you've had um, have ultimately been formed by an experience that you had when you were a senior in high school. And that was Christmas Eve, 2007, I believe it was. There was an automobile accident that yourself and your family was involved in that really changed a lot of things for you and changed probably your perspective on life more than anything, I would have to imagine. That automobile accident happened to take the life of your father, take the life of your girlfriend, your very serious girlfriend, and it also paralyzed your older brother from the waist down in that accident. You tore your shoulder, I know from what your mom has talked to me about, trying to free your brother from the wreckage where he was trapped. And 6 months, you're supposed to move to Ann Arbor, Michigan and play football for a prestigious football program. I just going back and thinking about everything that traversed on that evening and the stuff that you experienced and the process that you had to go through to get you to be an athlete, be on your own, move away from that and heal as much as possible as a then 17, 18-year-old. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, um, in hindsight, you're able to kind of look back on it and figure out how life has changed, and
mhm,
kind of what things got you through it. And and even me personally, there's certain things that in a way you wish you could change with just like life in general. You wish I've got this knowledge now. I wish I would have known that this was going to happen, or I know that,
yeah,
hey, if I did this, like one big thing for me was, it's obviously a pivotal moment anytime. I mean, for anybody that's gone through a tragedy like that, and something that you can't prepare for, it's a pivotal moment in your life. And whether you like it or not, you have a completely different outlook on life, and
yeah,
you see how fragile life is. It makes you cherish memories and moments, and yet at the same time, it's you're in so much pain going through something like that, that the very
yeah,
memory of the people that you've lost is, um, haunting in a way, and so you just it's one of those things you wish you could fix and you can't, and yeah, just there's really no words to describe it. But over the years, I've learned that so many people that have seen the E60 episode about our story, so many people have shared their tragedies, their things, and it's all relative.
Right.
Somebody's lost a loved one, or I've heard story, not that you can compare tragedies like that, but I've just heard stories where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe something like that happened to you, and our story was one night. I've heard people that have had just their maybe even their entire lives have been a list of tragedies, and you hear it,
Yeah.
but they'll say, I saw your E60, and it gave us hope, it gave us inspiration, it gave us encouragement to keep pushing, to get through it. It put a smile on our face.
Right.
um Even my barber told me the other day, he said that he watched it and he just was floored. And he's met Brock. Brock's been out to visit me, and I've taken
Okay.
Brock there to get a haircut. But he mentioned it. He's like, "Oh my god, it's so sad, and yet at the same time, it was so happy at the end."
Yeah.
And I think that's why we did it, and that's what it's all about. Really, is to even doing a podcast like this is to show people that it's still horrifying for me to even think about, and it's
Mhm.
you never really get over it. You have a hole in your heart for the rest of
Mhm.
your life, but there's still life after something like that. There's still hope. There are still
Yeah.
good times, and there's maybe even more so, more reason for me to live and to just maximize my life,
Yeah.
and that's the whole point of the miracle at Michigan, the E60 episode. The whole point, I think, for me is to encourage people that, hey, we've been through this, but this is what can happen if you are willing to fight back
Yes.
and I guess try to regain your life and
Mm,
you
mhm.
know um
When
yeah,
do you
so
think for you, as a person, because everybody heals and traverses through tragedy and all the challenges, the way that they do, the way that they process, because 'cause we're all different. When do you feel that you got to a point where you felt like, "I have that fight back. I feel like I can fight back."
um I'd say that's a difficult question to answer, because there are still times today where I wonder if I can fight back, and I
Ah,
think that's kind of like what I said. I feel like you always have that hole in your heart, and whether you like it or not, your life is forever changed. You view life in a different way.
yes.
There's really nothing, no book you can read, or even therapy was very helpful for me, but it's always going to be something that has happened to you and something that you went through. And but I think it's just been an ongoing fight for me, and
Mhm,
I think the best answer for me, like you said, I had to move to Ann Arbor 6 months later,
mhm.
and go to college. In many ways, I didn't want anything to do with football. I was like, football? Who cares
Yeah,
about a game? And the amount of work and effort that it takes is sometimes I don't even know how I got through that. And
yeah,
luckily
yeah,
for me, um, I had such amazing teammates and people around me. It made all the difference. But the reality was that football, it's like on one hand, you don't want to play it, you don't even care about it.
right.
And on the other hand, football was the thing that allowed me to escape. It allowed me to be in a place where I could actually search for my passion for it again, have
Yeah,
to really dig deep and find, why did I even like football? And you start to examine your life and think back to when your dad was spray painting the yard, and the simple part aspect of it, of playing with your brothers, playing with your dad, mom's watching and your friends are coming over, whatever it may be. That's where it all started. And so you have to kind of dig deep and say, you know what, this is maybe something that's bigger than me, and I'm surrounded by these teammates, and
yeah,
even, more so, just I think God really got me through it, and that's a whole
Right.
nother maybe a whole nother podcast episode. But I had so
Yeah.
many reasons why I felt God was calling me to Michigan, and
Mhm.
pretty much none of them had to do with football, and I didn't find
Well,
that out till later. So
yeah, I think that's one of the most intriguing things, and I would invite everybody that's listening to this to tune into the miracle episode that we're talking about. We'll put that link as well up for when we release this podcast and this talk, because the basis for a lot of your healing, I would say, had to do and revolve around how all that I'm gonna just call it a God thing that just dropped. Because with you being a higher level athlete, being recruited by numerous Division One programs, your dad and your hope was that you would go to Ohio State. That was going to be the thing to do, right? And
mhm.
when Michigan called and the younger mom said, I think we need to probably look at this. Yeah, okay. All right, you did. It fit. Here we go. You would have no idea how pivotal that decision would be just a year down the road, 2 years down the road for you. Because without that, it would have changed the trajectory for your brother and for your entire family.
Yeah, yeah, and that, like I said, in hindsight, it had everything to do with not football, and
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
at the time as a recruit, and it's funny I look back on it, and but that's what makes it such a beautiful story in the end is that when I was a recruit, I was meeting with my pastor. I was really conflicted because the young Elliott wanted to go to Ohio State, and yet
Mhm.
every time, there were many factors involved. Coach Tressel was awesome. His brother recruited me. It was a dream come true.
Yeah,
Yet at the same time, they kind of had their offensive linemen set up. They already had their guys committed. They didn't. They were nice to me and treated me great, but they were just kind of like, yeah, we like you.
yeah,
Whereas Michigan, on the flip side, we love you. What do we have to do to get you? You
yeah,
should only be visiting here. Don't visit any other schools. What are you doing? They were above and beyond. And on top of that, like I said, I was meeting with my pastor, and there were so many little moments that I had throughout the recruiting journey that, make no mistake, it was God speaking to me. And I even
yes.
got made fun of as a recruit on, the recruiting websites because they're like, recruit says God tells him to go to Michigan. Like this guy's,
Wait,
this
wait.
guy's out of his mind kind of thing. Cause I was very outspoken about it. I feel,
Yeah,
because it's a big deal. Ohio State, Michigan, this whole thing. And I just
right.
said, I really feel a calling on my heart to go to Michigan. And like I said, my pastor and I would meet, and different, just all kinds of different things would happen where it was like I would pray and God would clearly answer the prayer.
Mm.
And I'm like, Elliott wants to go to,
Yeah,
for those that have faith, it's like the flesh wants to go to Ohio State, but God is really calling me to go to Michigan. And on top of that, I fell in love with Ann Arbor. I fell in love with the staff and all these. But anyways, the whole point saying in all of that is there were so many reasons to go to Michigan. And as a recruit, I thought it was going to deal with football, and come to find out, it was the perfect opportunity for, simply put, my family to heal and to
yeah,
give Brock an opportunity, more specifically, Brock an opportunity to heal,
yeah,
and way bigger than football. And you can't make that up. It's like I look back and I see God's hand on it all, and I'm just like I'm very thankful.
yeah. So let's follow that timeline because the accident happened in 2007 as you're a senior. And Brock, your older brother, he was at Ohio State at that point?
Yes, yeah, I
Okay,
think
so
he
he
was
was
a
already a
junior,
student.
maybe a
Okay,
junior or senior.
okay, so he was already a student at Ohio State. When the accident happened and it paralyzed Brock from the waist down, the rehabilitation and the surgery and the whole process that he had to go through was immeasurably huge, just as you can only imagine. And when you found out that there were, what, a handful of rehabilitation hospitals that really were the best ones to deal with the injury that he had, and you find out that one is in Ann Arbor, you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay. Well, you're already there. You had just started there, so your brother's going to join you.
Mhm. Well, he really technically, beat me to getting up there, so, I don't remember the timeline exactly, but, uh, I think it was, within a month or 2 of the accident that he, was at Ann Arbor.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think, as far as football goes, Lloyd Carr had retired, and I had started to get recruited by some schools again that were like, Lloyd Carr is going to retire. We don't know who Michigan's going to get.
Yeah.
You should come to Michigan State, or you should come to Illinois. And I was kind of partly entertaining it. And my dad, told me, he goes, "No, you committed to Michigan. You gave him your word. You're going to Michigan." And I think part of it was like, we just got all this Michigan stuff. Got rid of the Ohio State T-shirts or whatever.
Oh,
We're not
my.
going through this again, But
Yeah.
one of his last things to me was, "You chose Michigan," and it was beyond who was the coach. Even though that was a big factor, it's like you
Right.
chose it for the tradition. You fell in love with Ann Arbor. You're going to a storied program that, all many different reasons. But so, anyways, I was going to Michigan
Mhm.
regardless of who they hired.
Yeah.
They end up hiring Rich Rodriguez right around the same time that the accident happened, and so, anyways, by the time Brock, um, ends up in the hospital up in Michigan, they probably hadn't been on campus. I don't know, maybe weeks, a few weeks.
Right.
And so one of their first things was to visit Brock. And I say they, I'm talking Rich Rodriguez, the head coach, and Mike Barwis, the guys who would ultimately end up training Brock,
Mhm.
even though all they knew was that, hey, one of your recruits' brothers is here at the hospital. We'll send some players up, some coaches to meet with them. And so, anyways, all that to say is, who could have known that the people that didn't even recruit me, I think Brock might have even met them before I did. And
Oh my
so,
gosh. He met your
so
coaches before and your athletic trainer before you did.
I think so, yeah. And at that time, again, your mindset is pretty much, I don't really give a damn about football at this point. So
Right.
whoever's I don't even know what's,
Right.
happening in my life right now. So
Yeah.
wasn't exactly a high priority, but they made sure to come visit.
Mhm.
And so, anyways, who knew that the moment they got hired, that this relationship was going to start with this Brock Mueller kid. And I think it was maybe a year later when Brock really started to get, movement in his legs, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden this kind of like, hey, maybe we really can, build something here. He's moving his feet. And
Yeah.
then the whole relationship with Mike started. And,
Yeah. I
you
love
know,
that, by the way, because when as I'm watching that, the character of your athletic trainer, Mike, that you're talking about, was just no nonsense, foundational. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna make happen. It's what I am committing to this. And when I say committing to that, your brother was at a point where he had to leave that specific hospital and move on to something different. And because of that relationship that was built by those coaches that reached out to your family in need at a really, really low point for everyone. It was, um, gosh, it's beautiful to think about because they took your brother on as another athlete. They took him on as another athlete.
yeah, no, exactly. And I think the way I remember it, they obviously met him shortly, after the accident when he was up at Michigan. And I think it was, uh, just trying to reach out and be supportive. And I don't know that there was any conversation of like, we're going to get you walking again. Cause he, was in really bad shape at that point. But
Yeah.
the way I remember it was, he had come, that's why I say a year later, he was up at a spring practice where I, had been at Michigan for a year, and we're walking out to practice. Brock is still in a wheelchair, and we're going through the weight room as we're walking out to practice. And I say we, I think my mom was there, and
Uh-huh.
Brock, and my brother Blake, and his wife, and so on. And so, way I remember it was that Mike saw him then. It was like, hey, how's, they knew each other, whatever, but how are you, what's going on? What's
Yeah.
going on here? And He's like, well, I can move my legs, and I'm starting to get feeling, and I'm starting to get all these things were starting to come back slowly but surely, progressively. He was getting more and more, and so I just remember Mike being like, "Come over here and hop on this, this ball." Because if you want to walk again, we got to build your core up. You got to have a
Yeah.
strong core to be able to balance and hold yourself. Get over here, and I was just like, good
What
luck with that. I'm
what
going to
is
go out to
happening?
practice
Oh,
because I knew what Brock was getting into, and
yeah,
so
yeah,
anyways, it made me laugh. But that's to me, that is where I don't think Brock came out to practice. He's in jeans and a jacket.
yeah. It was
And
no
I
one
come
was
back in and he's
anticipating
drenched in
that.
sweat, and the
Yeah,
way I understood it was just that it was a challenge of I don't know how to make someone walk again, but I do know
mm,
the human body. And
right.
and Mike is that's why I say it's such a God thing. I mean, there's so many layers to it and
Yeah,
moments and people, but Mike is not only the best at what he does, but he's also so humble to be willing to say, I'm willing to learn. I'm
yeah,
always willing to learn. I'm always willing to research. And even though we're doing it this way now, maybe something will say that this way is not the best.
right,
We'll try it this way. And so to get somebody like Brock and say, I don't know the human body, or I don't know how to make someone walk, but I know the human body.
right.
If you're willing to put in the work, I'm willing to do everything we can to get you to walk again and kind of an experiment, but like,
Yeah,
I think I can do it. And
yeah,
Brock's like, all right. And
yeah.
that's where it began. And
And the it beginning for him was him actually walking across the field on a season opener, right?
yeah, I think that would have been uh about I
Right.
guess a year and a half later, maybe.
Right.
Um he's better with the specifics on that, but I think it would have started if it started in that spring, it would have been about a year and a half later. I think that he yeah, took the field and was challenged, but it's just
Mhm.
amazing because I can remember, Brock would just be able to just being in his wheelchair and being able to just kind of fling his right foot. And it would just kind of, he just kind of kick it and drop. And you're just like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then it would
Yeah.
be, he could hold it up and then it would go down again and hold it. And all of a sudden he's starting to build up some strength. And then that's when he starts training with Mike. And, they had him to the point where it's, we're not going to let you bring the wheelchair into the building. You have to crawl in here.
Oh
So
my.
how does a baby learn to walk? A baby learns by crawling. And it was kind of like, okay. And,
Wow.
it was at the point where they let him bring the wheelchair to the doors of the weight room. And then
Yeah.
he'd have to crawl in from there. And then it was, now we're not going to let you bring it into the building. He'd crawl in through the building.
Wow.
And then it turned into eventually, you need to get rid of the wheelchair, period, and
Yeah.
not even have it as an option. And like I said, Brock I'm sure he's got more specific stories, but for me watching that
Yes.
and
Yes.
Brock, I mean, the workouts, you could almost argue his workouts were more brutal because I mean they were pushing him.
Mm.
They were treating him like one of the players, and but his workouts, were to get him to walk again. It's like there's way
Yeah.
more at stake here, and so I think in many ways they really pushed him to the limit. And Brock never complained, never
Mhm.
quit, never missed a workout. I just to this day I'm just blown away at his work ethic and
Yeah.
what he did and I just think of myself and I think, God, there had to be days where it's just like, not today. I can't. I'm tired.
Right.
This and that. I don't want to make the drive.
Right.
And he showed up every time. And yeah,
Well, and that's a testament though to your dad that raised you. If I think back to that as a parent, the things that you wanna instill in your kids is that drive and that motivation and that no excuses and that, don't back down from a challenge, like, give it your all. If you commit to it, give it your all. I mean, you committed to your process, and look where you landed in a great program that, again, was everything that you're explaining, it's just such a God thing and that you would not know. I think it was really interesting. It's like the flesh wanted this, but
yeah,
yeah, but God had other intentions. And I think
yeah,
that is such a huge testament to the fact that we have such a hard time releasing expectations around certain things. But I want to know a little bit more about how you felt as and you talk about being blown away by his determination and his work ethic. Tell me what you felt when you, your older brother, Blake, Brock, and your mom walked across that football field on that opening day to what, 100 and how many? 113,000 people?
Yeah. I think it was a record at the time.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
It was, it was incredible, and I was very split because I was a player, and so I was trying to mentally, probably for selfish reasons, mentally trying to keep my mind off of, because I was so nervous for Brock. I'm like, "I gotta focus on the game. I gotta focus on the game because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm about to go play a football game. I'm in and I don't know whether to puke or cry." You
Yeah,
know, I'm like,
right?
because I was so nervous
Oh,
for him, and
yeah,
I know my mom was, and not that, even if he had fallen, he knew how to get up, and there was a game plan that, okay, fall, the crowd's probably going to cheer even harder for you to get back up,
right,
and your brother's going to be there to help you. And but yeah, I was just so nervous and so excited for him, and proud of him, and
right.
just it really was a culmination of all the things that were happening behind closed doors. And there
Mhm,
were obviously, it wasn't a secret that he was training with us, but
mhm.
day in, day out, to see the work he was putting in and the things they were doing to him. And
Yeah,
just like I said, it was almost an experiment,
yeah,
trying to figure out what do we got to do to push him to get him up again. And the
right.
fact that he did it is just blows my mind. But that moment walking out into the field with the people cheering, it was really unbelievable, and it was really for our family, I think, a healing moment to
I was
kind
just
of,
gonna say, yeah.
I don't know
Mhm.
how to say it, but almost like a strike back of saying, you know what, we got knocked down pretty hard, and there's
Mhm.
nothing that's going to change losing our loved ones, but damn it, this is the best we can do here, and it's pretty good. and
Yes,
so
yes.
it was awesome.
That culmination, like you said, of everything over the course of the previous years. Yeah, the knockdown that you guys all went through. That that healing, your brother was that catalyst, but it had to be you, right? And your process that got to that point that you had no idea why this was such a space that you had to go to, and why all these things were happening like this.
Yeah, yeah, it's I didn't really know it, you know almost until after I left Michigan and could really look back, because I think while I was there, you're so stressed out, you're so focused on football,
Yeah.
whether it's as an individual trying to earn a starting spot,
Mhm.
or impact the team, and workouts to, wanting the team to do well, all these different
Yeah.
things. You're so focused in a 4 to 5 year period. But when I look back at it, I really see how much, and not to say the football aspect of it was great, but it wasn't the main reason. And so when I look back, I'm like, wow, as a recruit, and it's taught me a lot about life and about how God works. And I think sometimes, uh, you may see something. Well, why is this happening, or why is it got to go this way? And even
Yeah.
if it's good, it's like, why? Well, why is this happening to me? I think sometimes I don't know. I've heard it described as, you go through life and all the ups and downs in life, and you just wonder why. And then when you really look back on it, you realize it's a finely crafted novel, and everything
Mm.
somehow makes sense.
Yeah.
And I, I, uh, I saw Joe Walsh of the Eagles say that, and so he's had a pretty wild life. But
Yeah.
that always struck me, and I have a lot of life to live, obviously, still. But when I really look back at those years and the valleys, to put it lightly,
Mhm.
I do look back and I think, geez, when I was being recruited, and all these decisions and all these weird moments I had, and all these, I mean, it really was a struggle as fan Elliott, fan of Ohio State. My
Mhm.
childhood was Ohio State. Even my buddies, I remember when I was in high school, when I started getting recruited, Miami, Ohio offered me. Toledo came to, and offered me. Bowling Green. That was awesome. That was so cool. I'm like, oh my God, I have a chance to play Division I football.
Yeah. Yeah.
My buddy said, what if Michigan sends you a letter? And that still seemed, even though that was always my dream to go to Ohio State, and I believed it, it still wasn't reality yet. So I'm like, if
Right.
Michigan sends me something, if they send me a letter, I'll tear it up." And they go, "Okay, okay, we'll see." And fast
Okay.
forward, Michigan didn't send me a letter. They showed up at my school, and
Wow.
they were the first school of the Miamis and Bowling Greens and all these teams that are near me. Michigan was the first school to actually show up and look me in the eyes and say, "We're recruiting you." And when that happened, my jaw hit the floor. They said, "You said you'd rip it up." I go, "Well, they didn't send me a letter."
Well,
I go, "They showed up at my school."
completely different situation, right?
But it really was a struggle for me, and yet, and it wasn't just me, my family, my dad,
Mhm.
my mom, Brock, being a student at Ohio State, Blake. I even think took an uncle or two with me on visits, and
Mhm.
I took Hollis so she could, witness this stuff as well. I valued everybody's opinion around me
Yeah.
because I wanted to be smart, and it's very exciting when you recruit. Probably as your daughter knows, like you're getting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting that you're part of you is jumping at every, "Oh, did you hear that? They said they like me. Oh my god, I gotta go here." And then the next place tell,
Yeah.
"Well, they said they love me. I gotta go here." You get
Yeah.
very excited, and that's part of the process, and you should enjoy those moments. But at the time for me, it was everyone seemed excited. But when I went to Ohio State, it just and there was nothing outrightly bad.
Just didn't feel.
It didn't feel like home to me. It didn't feel right. In fact, almost everything felt wrong. And
Wow.
I didn't necessarily want it to be that. I definitely didn't want it to be that way, but it was
Yeah.
undeniable.
Yeah.
And, to the point where even my dad, it turned into a thing where it was, "We'll give him one more shot. We'll give him one." And every time, again, not that they were doing anything bad, but it just every time I left disappointed. And it was like,
Yeah.
gosh, Michigan was the
Wow.
opposite. And it was almost like, even though I was just honored and it's so cool to be recruited by Michigan, I was like, "Is that what I want though? Like, why can't Ohio
Yeah.
State do what Michigan's
Yeah.
doing?" And Michigan just kept delivering, doing everything right, visiting up there, the
Mhm.
people, everything was like the opposite of Ohio State. It all felt right. And so you
Well,
look back at
knowing
that and it's yeah.
all of that as a 16, 17, 18-year-old young man. I mean, you're in your formative years and having those experiences. I wanna go back to something you said a little bit ago about being able to look back on kind of the nuts and bolts of everything and kinda look back on the experience as a whole and kinda be able to have some perspective about why certain things happen. Obviously, there's always gonna be questions, like you said earlier, about why this had to happen, but in terms of you understanding the bigger picture of how things traversed for you, if you will, and the trajectory that your life took, and therefore your family's life took, I think, gosh, I think that's a gift, and you're young yet. Yes, you have a lot of life to live, but that's, I think, a gift that not everybody gets in their life.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think I that's uh I think as we like to say, like, out of the tragedy we lived through, there's, still treasure. Like I said, there's still moments,
Mm,
there's still life to live. Brock touching the banner and all the great things that, have all of us that were affected, all the great things that have happened in our lives individually.
yeah,
You try to really look at those things and examine them. And, we still have, still have bad times through life, like everybody does, where you're, whatever it may be,
yeah,
you're sitting and you're kind of examining things and saying, and I'm always reminding myself of what I've been through and what I've experienced and saying, "You know what? You're not maybe gonna understand it right now.
yeah.
You may not, even if it's something good, it's like, what can I learn here? What's God trying to teach me or calling me to?"
Mhm,
Um, and ultimately just enjoy it. Enjoy every
mhm.
moment that you have and you know, make the most of it. And yeah, I cherish those memories as a recruit because I think was so caught up and I think it's natural to be caught up in that it's football and it's all about and
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go to a play, I'm gonna get in the NFL someday and all these things.
Right.
I look back and I'm so thankful that it wasn't about football because football is about that much of my
Yeah,
life. And
right, right. Yeah, which is
um,
a whole other situation. It's, you talk about football not being your identity, and I think most every college athlete crosses that or encounters that, whether they cross that and deal with it or not is a whole other situation. But I think every collegiate athlete at some point, either before, during, or immediately thereafter, will say they've had to navigate that their sport is not who they are. It's not their identity. I think it's interesting that this whole experience for you and your family gave you such a perspective about that identity. It sounds like at a very, very early point for you in your career.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a struggle as, when you're, especially when you're in college, you're doing, you're at a big time program, you are doing, I mean, jobs are at risk if you're not,
Yeah.
successful. And so, I mean, there's a lot of pressure, and I think it becomes, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun as well, but so much pressure to perform at your highest level. And like
Yeah.
I said earlier, competition's great. You want it brings out the best in people. And so I really cherish it, but just in hindsight, having gotten out of college and, football's behind me, so to speak, I just realized all the other reasons that I went to Michigan, and all the other reasons that football was, something God put in my heart from a young age. I can remember being a kid. Gosh, I must have been, I don't know, 9 years old, 10 years old, maybe. I mean, maybe even younger. I can remember sitting around with my dad, and he was folding laundry. I'll never forget it. And I was like, how am I going to play for Ohio State and the Cleveland Browns when I can't play foot? I knew that my brothers weren't able to play football.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why at that age, but I just knew that they weren't. It's like, well, your
Yeah.
school doesn't have football, but I had cousins that had school. I was like, how am I going to do that? And it's like,
Right.
and I'll never forget my dad telling me, you will.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, how he
Wow,
he
what a
knew that, but he
moment.
was so encouraging, and
Mhm.
I've never forgotten that. But he was
Mm.
just very casual about it. You
Yeah.
will, and a couple, whatever it was, 2-3 years later, we end up moving to Wasion, and I have the opportunity. I mean, shoot, I think before I was even fully enrolled into school, it was like we were getting signed up in the football program,
Oh, I love it.
and but I think back to that, and I think God put that on my heart at a very young
Yeah.
age. And again, was it about football? A little bit, yes. I enjoyed football. It was great, and it opened up many, many doors for me and great
Mhm.
experiences. But at the end of the day, it was much bigger than football,
Right.
and I'm so thankful for that. And even now in my career now, it's like the connections that I have because of Michigan
Mhm.
and different people I meet out here in LA that are Michigan people, or hey, I know a Michigan guy, or wow, you played at Michigan, okay, and it has opened so many doors up for me
Yeah.
in what has ultimately become my career. Where football, like I said, is this small window,
Yes.
and you can't play it forever,
Yeah.
and but you can use it to open up doors for you later in life. And just
Yeah. It was your
a lot of
vehicle.
lessons.
It
Yeah,
was it was your vehicle to get you to where you are, and, like, I don't wanna, like, make it sound like you're carrying the weight of your family and the tragedy that you all had to go through, but it's almost like you were the one that paved this way for this healing process to happen, and everybody in your family had these beautiful pieces. You were all such an integral piece of that healing process for you, and football being about that much, right? Just that small opening of that door. How
yeah,
how well, again, just a really, really great God thing, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm so thankful for it because, like you said, my family, I may have been the guy that went to Michigan, but my family was such a huge part of it. My dad instilling the love for football in me,
Mhm.
and hard work, and the passion for it. I mean, really almost through osmosis, watching him how fired up. We'd go to my uncle's and be watching an Ohio State game in his basement. I mean, they're throwing their hats and yelling
Yeah,
and stomping around, and you kind of learn like, all right, this is the way it's, yes, this is how I should be
yeah,
doing it, and
yeah,
we're,
yeah.
we're mad. I'm not sure. I'm just a little kid. I'm not mad. I don't know what I'm mad about, but I'm mad, and I'm yelling at the
Yeah,
TV.
yeah.
And then my mom, she was always very out of the box thinker, very
Yes.
um, if you have a dream, you go for it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter how crazy it sounds or what other people might think, you're going to do it. And it just,
Right.
she's so casual about, it just is natural to her that you're like,
Yeah.
okay. And then my brothers, they were sports legends in my eyes growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Blake and Brock were such great, you know, specifically basketball were their sports. And I
Okay.
just looked up to them as a kid, and to have my brothers to look up to and really set the bar to say, all right,
Mm. Mhm.
I want to be. I mean, gosh, my freshman year of high school, I almost quit football because I
Oh,
wanted to
why?
focus on basketball because my brothers, that's what we do. We're
Whoa.
basketball guys,
Oh my.
and
That's
so,
crazy, Elliot.
but yeah, but I had brothers that were, so good at basketball and kind of setting that tone of the importance of sports. And so
Mhm.
I was just very blessed with my family
Yeah.
to all the little roles that they played in my life and still do, but really paved ways and inspired me and always encouraged me, even as crazy as it was going through school as a little kid. I i mean i still have little books from fifth grade. I'm going to play football at Ohio State,
Oh
and
my
then I'm going to go
goodness.
be an actor. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
from a young age I had those beliefs, and nobody in my family ever doubted it for a second or tried to
Yeah.
tell me I couldn't do it. And you go through school. That's why anytime I see a kid in school, it doesn't matter if he's a string bean, a little kid. He goes, "I want to play football at Michigan." I'm like, "Well, you can do it," And that's
Yes.
what
Yes.
I had. I had a lot of support, and oftentimes it came from people outside of my family. Who were like, "You can't do it. Are you crazy? You're going to
Yeah.
play at
No.
Ohio
Yeah.
State?" And it's just
Yeah.
because people don't really do that. And so
Right.
my
Yeah.
family was always so supportive, and I had other people in my life throughout the years that were so supportive. and
Mhm.
and again, I just look back at it all, and I'm thankful for the vehicle of football. I'm thankful that it
Mhm.
was on my heart at a young age,
Mhm.
and yet it had nothing to do with football. So it's a beautiful story, really.
It truly is. I wanna say there is a quote that, that was mentioned in Miracle, and it was your dad's saying, "If you don't have good dreams, you'll have nightmares."
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit about how that echoes what it was that you just said. Because, like, the dreams that you talk about your parents being so casual about their belief. It's just, like, innate. It's a very,
Mhm.
very yeah, it's a no-brainer. You wanna do it? It's available. Go get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was, and it came. I was also aware that it came at a cost. Like my dad and mom
Mm,
would both be, all right, well, you're going to have to work for it. And
yeah.
like I said, my mom was always the out of the box thinker, kind of, well, yeah, you're going to play college football, but like, what NFL team are you going to end up on? And that kind of thing, where, and it was just, it came off so, uh, like, yeah, like I said, natural,
Yeah.
that you really do believe it as a kid growing up. It's all right. Let's go for it. But yeah, that quote that my dad always used to tell me, um, and like I said, I cherish all these little memories because it was before I was recruited. It was
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
even though I knew it on my heart and my parents knew it and all these things, it was like, they really knew it. And my dad was just
Yes.
go for it. If you don't have good dreams, you're going to have nightmares. And the funny thing about that quote too is, and again, another God moment, but it's from the movie Diner,
Okay.
and Mickey Rourke says it, and Steve Gutenberg is in the movie as well. When I moved to LA, the first person I met in LA was a guy I was connected to through a Michigan teammate,
Uh-huh.
but he's neighbors with Steve Gutenberg. And I end up meeting Steve Gutenberg, and I
Oh
go,
my.
and he gives me a lot, and still to this day gives me a lot of great advice with acting and different things.
Mhm.
But when we first met, he gives me all this great advice. We met, we grabbed coffee. He's the greatest guy. But as we're walking away, I just said, "Hey, by the way, I just wanted to tell you, my dad used to share this quote with me." And he cut me off. He goes, "I read the story. I know about the quote. That is incredible." And
Oh,
he knew the how special it was that this quote was something my dad used to say. And here I am meeting one of the guys from the movie. And then
Yeah.
fast forward, I signed up about a year ago for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu at the gym down the street. And my first day at Jiu Jitsu, Mickey Rourke is in there doing Jiu
Oh my
Jitsu.
gosh.
And so I'm like, this is
What?
insane to me. So,
That's crazy.
anyways, and he's the one that says the line, but that's where my dad got that line. But he believed it.
Yeah.
And, he would say it with a determination, a sternness about it. Like,
Mhm.
have those dreams, but like, what are we going to do? Get
Mhm.
outside, shoot your free throws, jump your rope, lift your weights, whatever it was. He was
Yeah.
always pushing me and to be prepared that there would be a day that would come when I would be recruited. And are you
Yeah,
going to
and
be ready?
be ready. Be ready to
Yeah,
walk through that door when that opportunity approaches for you. Yeah. Do you,
exactly.
do you feel like those angels are around you? Your girlfriend and your father?
Yeah, I definitely do. I, I don't, I was just talking about it earlier today, but I call it winks from God. I have all these
Yeah.
moments that have happened and all these stories that I write down in my journal that have happened to me on my journey through life. And it's undeniable that, God's fingerprints are on my life. And, but I always call them God winks when I have these moments that just are kind
Yes.
of ways of, they're maybe not anything specifically impactful, but running into Mickey Rourke, maybe,
Yeah.
something like that, where I just have to laugh and say, you
Yeah.
know what, God's telling me I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I'm
Yes.
where I should be,
Right.
if nothing else. And, but yeah, not a day goes by that I don't think of my dad and Hollis.
Mhm.
And, they're no doubt, on the journey with me. And, yeah, I think of them often, and
Mhm.
I definitely have moments where I feel like they're winking at me too. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I cherish moments like that. And like I said, I not a day goes by I don't think about them.
Yeah.
And it's at a point now where it's very encouraging for me to think about them, and inspiring for me, and
Mhm.
wanting to make the most of my life, and what life I have. I want to make the most out of it because I realize it could be gone tomorrow. It could be gone at any minute.
Yeah.
And I want to make the most of my life for my dad, for
Yeah.
Hollis, for my family, who still to this day is so supportive of me,
Yeah.
and if and to also inspire other people to go for their dreams. And I always say that the one of the greatest gifts, if not the greatest gift someone can give you, is belief. And I've had
Yes.
it throughout my life where people have looked me in the eyes and say, I believe in you. And
Oh,
sometimes when you don't even believe in yourself.
mhm.
And it's just always been so valuable to me. And yeah, like I said, I think of my dad and Hollis all the time and how much
Mhm.
they believed in me. And
Yeah.
in many ways, my life, I try to live it in a way that would make them proud.
Yeah. Do you feel that's probably one of your biggest blessings to date, having gone through everything you've gone through at this point?
Well, I think it's,
Is that
to
belief?
me, yeah, I think to me, it definitely is the encouragement that I had. And
Mhm.
like I said, I think about my dad and Hollis all the time. Every day I think about him at some point. And sometimes it's something I can laugh at. Sometimes it's something that makes me want to cry.
Right.
Sometimes a lot of the times it's some funny story or something that I think of, and I cherish those moments because as the years go by, you start to forget what they were
Right.
like, and you really think
Yeah.
about. I have friends that will tell me, "Remember the time that your dad?" I just had a buddy do this the other day. Remember the time your dad? We were at a Wendy's, I guess, and he put on the Wendy's. I guess they had a wig or something. The pigtails, that Wendy's has. And he take a picture of me. I go, I do not remember that, but that
Yeah.
sounds like something he would do, and he
Yeah.
wanted a photo. And one
Yeah.
of my buddies from high school was telling me, "Oh, that was the funniest thing in the world. How do you not remember?" And I go,
Oh,
I guess I don't, but
yeah.
you learn to cherish those memories. And And so I don't know where I
Well,
was going with that, but yeah, I just the belief
well,
that they had in me is like I said, one of the greatest gifts, if not the greatest. And I
right.
remember that for any time I want to encourage other people, I
Mhm.
how much it really means to have someone that, especially someone that knows you, say,
Mhm.
"No, you can do it. I've seen you do it. I know you can do it. I believe in you." And it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. Well, as the memories diminish as the years go by, I think one of the things that really strikes me from everything you've said so far is that that belief in you and that support and that drive that, yes, you're going to do it. Yeah. Is is just stronger. It's just growing,
Hmm. And
and
that's
like how do you even categorize that? How do you even categorize that?
yeah, that's where I say like the winks from God, and sometimes it's uh, feels like winks from my dad and Hollis,
Yeah.
where it really does feel like they're on the journey with me, and
Mhm.
it goes back to the days when I was recruited. Like I said, I'd get made fun of on some recruiting sites. This guy says God's telling him to go to Michigan. Are we serious right now? And for me, I'm like, I know how insane it sounds. Believe me. And
Yeah,
in some
yeah.
ways, at the time, I had my struggles where I'm like, God, could you please give me a sign to go to Ohio State? Like, why is everything awesome at Michigan? Why do I
Right.
love Michigan? Like, this isn't the way it was supposed to go. Uh, so yeah, I know how crazy it sounds, but I still have those moments now, and like I said, everything that I can look in hindsight, looking back, everything that's
Mhm,
happened to me, there's no question in my mind of God's hand on it, and so I remind myself of that now. So when I have those moments, I'm like, I may not understand why this is happening, but I can tell God's letting me know I'm on the right path, and
mhm.
even in the down times, He lets me know that He's with me,
Yeah.
like I said, I have the stuff that's happened to me in life has been something I can use now to say like, all right, you didn't know what was going on then, but it worked out for you.
Right.
Let's keep trusting and having faith in God's
Yeah. Trusting,
making it happen.
trusting. I mean, you were asked at a very young age to trust the process.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about trusting your process. Yeah,
yeah,
and as you age, what a beautiful gift in the face of tragedy that you had to go through. And what a beautiful gift of trust and faith and a really, really good perspective, and I think for anyone hearing this, it's not diminishing your experience and what your family had to endure and the days that are low that are still happening, that still occur for all of you, I'm sure. It's rather looking at the other side of the coin and understanding that how fundamental the faith is for you and the trust in that process and how it all transpired to get to a point to bring all of you, um, more full, more whole in the face of tragedy.
yeah, absolutely. I think
Mhm.
it's you know you're really reminded of how precious life is,
Yeah.
and you may not remember it every day, but I have time probably so many times where I might think, well, this isn't working out, or I had an audition. I can't tell you how many times I get an audition for a football player and I don't get a call back for it. I'm like, I'm the guy, I've got
I
at least a
gotcha.
call back, at least give me one more chance. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
I know this role. And,
yeah.
but I remind myself that, you have to enjoy the journey, and the journey
Mhm.
is the destination. And I
Mm,
think all the time I remind myself, be happy, be present.
yes.
Life can be much worse, and um, God doesn't design us to live in fear, live in this place of, like I said, I'll always have a hole in my heart, and I've accepted that
Mhm,
um, it's not necessarily that you heal, but that you just accept that you have this hole in your heart where
mhm,
these people, your lost loved ones, and but knowing that I'm able to move forward and really enjoy the present moment and
Yeah.
try to make the most of my life that I possibly can with, like I said, you just never know. Shoot, just this morning I got horrible news that one of my teammates from Michigan passed away last night from colon cancer.
Oh,
And
wow. I'm so
uh,
sorry.
Craig Rowe, he was just, I mean, he's younger than me, and I just completely shocked. I just, I mean, there's really no words when you hear something like that, but I just,
Yeah.
and yet I think he was a guy who, I wasn't extremely close to him, but I even played pro ball with him. We were roommates
Oh,
when we played pro ball for a little while, and
yeah.
I just, he was a guy that always had a smile on his face and played football at 100 million%. He always gave everything he had. He always
Mhm.
had a real smile on his face and a strong faith in God. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I just, that just obviously happened this morning that I heard that. And I think
Mhm.
it's a reminder to me that, Craig lived with a real passion in life. Craig
Mhm.
seemed to
Mhm.
uh, just be always, he used to say, turned up, turned up. He was always really, I mean, he really was that way. And so
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know what it all means, but I think of Craig and I think of how passionate he lived in life. And
Yeah.
it's just one more opportunity for me to remind myself, you
Yeah.
don't know when your life's going to end. You don't know what valleys are coming or even peaks that are coming, great moments. So always
Right.
be prepared and just to be present and to enjoy every second that you have and to make the most of it.
Yeah. The journey is the destination, you said. I love that. There no
Yeah.
truer words have been spoken. Yeah. The
Yeah.
journey is the destination, and the people that are along the ride on our journey can be such the inspirations for us to continue moving forward and continue staying in the present, continue trusting our process by being examples of um, just being the human beings that are living that mission, if you will. Like they're living that out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, I like to think of that. The journey is the destination all the time, especially when I reflect back on Michigan, too. I think of sometimes I was, and obviously had just gone through a crazy, crazy moment in my life, terrible tragedy. But I think a lot of my years at Michigan, it was just so stressful
Mhm.
trying to heal and trying to pursue something in football
Yeah.
and just being caught up in this almost where you can't mentally just check out and
Yeah.
examine your life for a second and say,
Yeah.
can I just get a break here? And but at times I wish, um, and I had a lot of great times at Michigan, but sometimes I look back and I wish, I wish I would have just been present and enjoyed
Mm.
the moment. And
Yeah.
it's not to say I didn't have times like that, but I look back and I'm like, man, wish I would have relaxed a little bit and not
Yeah.
been so focused on, whatever, trying to get the starting spot or trying to improve here, try to do this. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's again another opportunity for me to remind myself now when I don't get the audition or I don't book the job or what am I doing? What am I going to do to get another audition or to get an opportunity? It's like, calm down.
Right.
You are living what you're supposed to. This right here, right now is the moment that you should be enjoying
Mhm.
and seizing and just be happy that you have the opportunity to
Mm,
pursue
yeah.
these things that you want to pursue. And
Right.
so, yeah, I'm constantly reminding myself of that all the time, actually.
Yeah.
So,
And the God winks that happen along the way are just those really validating pieces for you.
yeah, it's a little nudge to keep you, moving forward.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's all relative, but for me as an actor, you're constantly, how do I get this audition? How do I book the job? What do I need to change? What do I need to improve on next time? And sometimes
Right.
just when I need it most, I'll get a little wink from God of like, okay, you're on the right path. And that's how it's been with stand up comedy. It's like Brock is actually the one that pushed me to do a fantasy camp put on by Jay Leno and Adam Carolla. And I was like, man, I don't
Oh my
really want to.
gosh.
I go, I don't really want to do stand up comedy. That's never really been something. He goes, well, you should just, it's right. You live 5 minutes from where they're doing it. You should
Yeah.
do it. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, man, and come on, if nothing else, it'll help you become a better actor. Just saying you went through it, and maybe you'll meet
Yeah.
some people. And I go,
Okay.
okay, all right, I'll do it. And I signed up for it, and now all of a sudden, 3, 4 months later, now I'm going to open mics 3, 4 times a week, and
Yeah.
trying to get booked on shows now, and have built a set, and I love it. So it's
Yeah.
like hilarious how that works.
Right, it's another really crazy metaphor for life that if we just trust the process and go with that flow and stay in our present, like staying in the present, that's another really huge piece. That's a huge
Yeah.
takeaway for me. I mean, and like you hear people say that, but I think that your story is so relatable to that aspect and that idea that it's just undeniable about the gift that being in your present and being in that moment and the trust that goes along with being in the present is possible, and it
Mhm.
brings really it brings beautiful gifts to your life that honor and recognize the people that may not be with you anymore. Yeah.
Absolutely, it definitely does. And I analyze this stuff all the time and think
Yeah.
about it. And you're always, again, in my position, sometimes can get caught up in, I got to get the next audition. When am I going to book the job? And once I book the job, I'll be able to whatever, make X amount of money, and then maybe get that new car, move to a new spot that I want to, or whatever it is.
Right.
You're always on the hunt for the next thing, and pushing, and that's not always bad to have that drive, but
Mhm.
sometimes you can get caught up in it, and then all of a sudden 7 years goes by, and you're like, what have
Oh,
I been doing? I've been worried about what? And and,
yeah.
and that's why the memories of, all my memories, but specifically, with my dad and Hollis, when I look back, some of the most enjoyable things in my life are thinking back to pranks my dad would pull on us. And I
Oh.
was just talking to my mom this morning about how my dad and Hollis had they had their own little kind of, I don't know, inside jokes. They were always giggling and doing. I'm like, what's the joke? What's the? I don't get the joke. And it's like, you wouldn't get it. And it's just like,
Oh.
and
Aw.
like my mom said, almost in a way that they, knew they'd be going to heaven together
They
at the
be
same
together, yeah.
time, and
Mhm.
but I cherish that because my
Yeah.
dad really did have a great relationship with Hollis, and really Hollis's family and my family. I mean, we'd go to the movies, we'd go bowling together. I don't know how many high school couples bring their parents with them to go, and brothers, and
Take to their bowling date.
and sisters,
Yeah.
to go to the movies and different things like that. But we would do those things, and I've had a lot of awesome moments in my life and experienced some really great things, and yet some of my most cherished memories are sitting at home watching a movie with Hollis or with my
Yeah.
dad, and little stupid jokes we had, and
Mhm.
quoting movies and things like that. And so knowing that, I think about that now, and I think, don't get caught up in the rat race. Enjoy the people you're around, the people you're with,
Right.
and be present. Yeah.
Be present. Be present. Yeah. Elliot, man, it's gosh, this has been such a great time talking to you and hearing about your belief, hearing about your journey, hearing about your faith and everything that goes with it. I just I see that that inspiration just oozing out of you. And I hope that people that are watching this can hear it because it's so present. Speaking about present in another direction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just really is. And I think that we have so much that we can teach one another. And I just want to say thank you so much for being so honest, open, and vulnerable with being able to talk about how a tragedy has turned your life into these miraculous little points and how you find that balance and being honest enough to also know and say that it's not all okay. It's there's days because we're human,
Yeah.
you know? So that vulnerability is another really, really beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing all that with me today.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you having me on, and a lot of times talking about this stuff. That's what I learned in therapy. I would encourage anybody that has gone through tragedy. And like I said, it's always relative. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, losing your job could be something that really upsets your life, and
Right.
or going through something like I did. And like I said, I've met people that have gone through, it sounds like their whole life has been a tragedy, and somehow they're still pushing. And,
Mhm.
but one thing I learned through going through therapy was that, I always felt like I had a dark cloud over me and there was nothing I could do about it because there's no replacing or bringing back Hollis or my dad. But going through therapy, I realized the dark cloud will always be there, but I can kind of put the dark cloud off in the distance if I need to,
Yeah.
and maybe some days it comes back over, and that's okay. But
Right.
I can put the dark cloud over there, know that it exists, but I
Yeah.
got a bright sunny sky over here and a lot of life to live, and so yeah, I just always encourage. I guess my point in saying all that is I sometimes enjoy talking about this stuff and
Yeah.
trying to. It's healing for me many
Amen.
times, and
Mhm.
it's good to know that hopefully it can encourage some other people and that are going through tough times.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's finding perspective, and it sounds like you are doing a wonderful job in navigating that in the present, handling it when it
certainly
comes up.
try.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's all we can really do. That's really all we can do, and
yeah.
work on that muscle, if you will, right?
Mhm.
And as we work on that muscle and it continues to develop, and the next time that cloud that you were talking about comes over, you're able to look at it differently, or you're able to nudge it over just a little bit easier for you to be able to
Mhm.
go, "All right, I'll come back to you. We'll deal with that later. Right now, I'm having to focus here." And then your ability to be able to look at what was in that cloud is more
Mhm.
manageable because you've flexed that muscle. You've been working it. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, gosh, Elliot, I'm so again, so thankful that you were open to sharing your story. I want everybody to go and watch Miracle. And I'm going to put that link. It's an ESPN. It's would you call it a short? It's not really a short. It's like an hour long.
Uh, yeah, it's a E60. I mean, that's the thing. We did like they did like a 15-minute one, then they did a
Uh-huh.
30-minute one, and they're like, you know what? I think we want to do a full hour and
Yeah.
get the whole. So it's kind of a combination of those other episodes, and then filmed a bunch of stuff. But yeah, it's Miracle, and it's up on YouTube, and
Yeah.
it's.
It's great.
I'm always to this day meet people, even out here in LA, that have seen it and are inspired by it and thankful to
Mhm.
see it. And like I said, Brock walking out at the end, I think was a healing. I know was a healing moment for our family,
Mhm.
and yeah, just always want to encourage people that even when you feel like you've hit rock bottom, that there's more life to live, and there is good that will still come in life, and sometimes you just got to fight for it.
Amen. Amen, brother. If I could fist pump you through the screen right here, like, boom. Yes, there it is. We
I
just did
got
it.
you.
Oh man, before I let you go though, I want to wrap up with this is going to be fun. I want to wrap up with some rapid fire questions to kind of lighten it up a little bit and to
Sure,
show another side of your personality. Um and I think
I
this is
love
really
it.
going to be fun because you're with your stand-up comedy. Well, I can, you know what? I can only imagine you're going to write a spiel about this talk. And I'm going to be like the subject of a really funny kind of a really interesting 10-minute shtick you're gonna have on stage one time.
Well, I told my
Please
mom
call me when
recently.
you
I
do that.
told my mom recently. She's always calling me wanting to give me jokes. I go, you can write the jokes if you want, but she cracks me up because she'll say, hey, remember that one guy from Stryker, and he was funny, right? And I'll just be like, okay, yeah. And what's the joke? And she goes, well, he's a funny guy, and you should put that in your stand up. And I'm like, I don't know what the joke is,
What's
mom. I
what's
go, he like
what's
it sound. I go, but this conversation with you, mom, this is what I'm going to put in my
yes,
stand
this is
up. And so
exactly.
she laughs, and so but she's so
Oh, that's
wants
great.
to help me so much, and so it's so funny having those conversations. But yes, I'm always looking for material.
Well, if I become material, you'll have to shoot me a text and I'll fly out and sit on the front row and be like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, I'm gonna 4 or 5 questions if you're good with that. Cool?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. All
They're
right.
rapid fire, so it's gotta be quick answers or
Yes, you got it. Well, I mean, you
okay.
can think about it for a little bit, but some of them are just gonna be kind of like random stuff. All right.
Okay, I'll do
Okay.
my best.
Number one, here we go. What is your favorite type of weather?
Favorite type of weather? Fall. I love
Oh,
cool, crisp, leaves blowing. It's football season.
I was just gonna say it's like I was just gonna say it's like being in the horseshoe, but that's wrong of me to say because I'm in Ohio State.
Yeah, it's more that late September
Yeah.
feeling, early
Okay.
October. I love that.
All right. I got you. All right. Number two, what is the stupidest dare that you ever agreed to?
Um, gosh, stupidest dare. Um, wow, that's a good question. I would have to say stupidest dare.
Maybe I've stumped you.
Probably ringing the sheriff's, doorbell in the middle of the night with my buddies when I was in high school,
Oh, that's a bad
and
idea
then
in
then
our
getting
small
caught,
town.
getting caught
What?
a few doors down.
Oh, no. How
Yeah,
old were you think, or roughly? Like a
probably
teenager?
15. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And getting s
Or-
like, I don't I if you're not from a tiny, small little town like we're from, like, that's kind of a big deal, like, everybody the sheriff probably knows everybody in your family.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Didn't make him any more happy. He was after he scared the living daylights out of us.
Uh-huh.
He was pretty gracious about it.
Well,
So
that's
all
good.
things considered. So
So it all ended okay
yes,
then. Alright.
very stupid looking back at it. I'm
It's okay. It's what we do as teenagers. Yeah.
like,
All good.
exactly.
All good. Alright,
Small
question
town
number 3.
entertainment.
This is interesting because you're in LA. Would you ever appear on a reality show?
Um, probably. I wouldn't say never, but probably not.
Okay.
I think.
Any
I,
specific reason for you personally?
um, I think just me as an actor trying to
Mhm.
pursue a career in acting is like, oh, there's that guy from Survivor.
Oh, it's
But
like
you're
puts
trying to be,
like a
you're in a
stigma
TV
on
show
you.
or a movie. It's like, isn't that the guy that won Survive? I just don't.
Yeah, I
I
get
think you
it.
would kind of screw yourself casting wise, but
Yeah. Oh,
that's
I didn't think about that. That's a really valuable piece right there, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not that it's impossible, but it's already hard enough to get acting jobs. It's
Yeah.
like I think that would probably it'd be a lot of fun, but it'd kind of be like, all right, well, whether you
Yeah.
win or lose,
That's what you're known
go
as.
back to your job. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
be kind
Oh
of
god.
tough.
Okay, number 4. What was your last impulsive buy or impulsive purchase?
Yeah. I mean, nothing big, but probably I would have to say some sort of a fast food on Uber Eats that I shouldn't have been getting. In
Oh,
and out
no.
burger, probably.
What's your favorite fast food? What's your go-to food? Like fast food?
um, Chick-fil-A, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
I'm a
go.
pizza guy too. There's some good pizza spots out here in LA, so
Okay. All right.
that's usually my impulse buy.
Is a good pizza.
I forgot to thaw something. I'll order some Uber Eats. Like,
There we go. Yeah.
it's
That's it.
trouble.
That's definitely counts as an impulse buy. I will give you that.
Yes.
Last question, and I'll let you go. And this might be just a little bit deeper than the others, but
Sure.
what is your most strongly held belief about life, about you, about faith, about whatever the context for your journey has been?
Let's think. I would just say, it would have to be my faith in God. I think through all the ups and downs, like it kind of wraps up this whole thing, I guess. But like I've said a few times, I've seen God's fingerprints on my life.
Mhm.
The down times. I mean, wouldn't have been able to get through the down times without God, and so I would say, yeah, that. I guess my belief that he has good plans for me,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
shoot, even when I'm doing stand-up comedy, I just imagine Jesus standing next to me, like laughing at the jokes. I'm like,
I love that.
hopefully I could make Jesus laugh,
Yeah.
and so, but it does give me, um, it gives me a strength and a confidence in knowing that if I go up there and make nobody laugh,
Mhm.
I know that God wanted me to go up there and I'm going to learn something.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a great quote that I'm a sucker for great quotes, but there's a
Okay, give
great
me a good
quote.
one.
I can't think of his name, but he was I almost want to say it's from a movie, but it was an Olympic sprinter,
Okay.
Chariots of Fire, maybe. Anyways, doesn't
Okay.
matter. But the guy said, God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. And so when
Oh,
I pursue, whether it was football or acting and what I'm doing now, I feel like when I pursue the calling that God has put on my heart, I feel his pleasure. And I don't
yeah.
know exactly where it's going to go. I don't know, just like with football, maybe it didn't work out the way I planned, be an NFL Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
but it worked out in even better ways than I could have imagined. And I know
Oh,
I was
yeah.
pursuing the calling that I had on my heart that God placed in me before I was even born. And
Yeah.
I would say, so that kind of ties in with my deeply held belief. I believe that you pursue your purpose in life that God's laid out for you. And when you do that, you're really making an impact for God
Mm-hmm.
and living out your purpose in life. So,
Yeah. That's beautiful.
yeah,
It's faith. It's faith and trust and all of it all together. Yeah.
you can't lose, the good
Yeah.
or the bad. You're fulfilling your purpose,
Yeah.
and there's a purpose for everything. And I just think when you know that and you can accept that, it's not
Yes.
always easy, but it does make it
Yes.
easier. Every
Yeah.
time I go up on stage in front of the mic, I'm pretty darn nervous,
Yeah.
and yet it's always a huge reward. And at the end of the day, like I said, I know, at least for right now, I'm pursuing what God's calling me towards, and
Mhm.
there's really nothing more satisfying. So,
Oh, that's great. That's beautiful. Yeah. There is nothing more satisfying than following that purpose for sure.
yeah.
Amen. If there was a mic drop moment, boom. That's
There
there you
you
go.
go.
There you go.
That's
Amen.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, great. I
Ellie,
appreciate you having me on. This has been
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I've loved it. And again, I'm just going to say thank you, reiterate again. Thank you for your openness, for your honesty and your vulnerability because it's something that is so authentic and so relatable for people. And I think that's really what we're here to do is to help relate to other people so that we can all work together to heal not only ourselves, but to help other people along their path. Find that relatability that they can go, okay, I can pull just a little bit of something from that can, you know, bring me up to where I need to be, encourage me or inspire me to take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I've had it so much in my life. So I love to, as they say, send the elevator back down to somebody else and
Yeah.
try to lift them up a little bit. So
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna hit that elevator button, send it down for the next person.
that's right.
Uh, Thank you so much, Elliot. Go outside and enjoy your beautiful, beautiful Los Angeles afternoon.
I
As
will
I'm
do
sitting
that.
here in my gray Nashville pre-spring day. Couple more weeks, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, sunny skies are coming.
Yeah. And next time I'm in LA, I'm gonna shoot you a text. Maybe we'll go grab a drink or go grab some lunch or something. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Please do.
I will. All right. Have
Thanks
a
for
great
having
rest
me
of your
on.
day.
You too.
I will. Thanks, man.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you.